Welcome to the official My Prettiest Single Shadows Roundup video. I have been waiting to do this video for so long, and I finally am here and doing it. And let me tell you, this was probably one of the hardest videos that I have ever had to do. Making these choices over what shadows to put in this roundup was nearly impossible. I'm gonna be honest, I might need to do a part 2. The reason that these shadows made it into this roundup is that they are very much me eyeshadows. They are colors and textures and overall vibes that really represent me as a whole. There are a lot of similarities in the colors and the types of formulas that I chose. They're the types of formulas and colors that I personally am drawn to over and over and over again. So even though there's not a huge range here, I felt like they are the most me in an eyeshadow, or they're me in multiple eyeshadows. And so that's how I ended up making these decisions, which is why at some point I might need to do a part 2 that kind of adds a little bit more variety. But for now, I feel like what's inside this box is really, it's me. It's me on a plate. So with that, I can't wait to show you what's in this box and get into all of the swatches. This is the roundup. These are my most pretty, most beautiful single shadows. Although I say that very lightly because truth be told, these are probably not my only prettiest shadows. They're just the ones that really represent me the best. So 13 eyeshadows, let's call it lucky 13. All right, let's get to swatching. So this is called Gifts Galore, and it's by the brand Give Me Glow Cosmetics. It's one of their foiled pressed pigments, and it is absolutely stunning. Now, I am not one for these oversized pans generally, but when I look at this, I feel like I am staring into molten silver, and it just, I can't get enough of this shade. It is the perfect blackened base with a teal shift that I have ever seen. And I actually love that the large size pan makes it feel like a pool of water. Like it just glistens, and it's extremely sheeny and textured, but smooth at the same time. I have several shades from the brand, but this has to be absolutely one of my favorites. So you can see there is a glorious finger swatch. So hard to even pick up on camera because it just wants to like glow beyond measure. But it feels like silk on my hands. And I actually am speechless, even just looking at it now. Like I often forget just how incredible it is. It is perfectly smooth, absolutely metallic. And it just has that, again, blackened, but like very red base, which is one of my favorite types of shadows. And then it has this amazing, really smooth, absolutely buttery teal shift to it. And if you're looking for this kind of colorway, but in a very smooth metallic formula, this is absolutely one of the most amazing shadows that you can get, I would say. I literally could not do this video without showing you Gifts Galore. This is Drip by Looxi Beauty. And it's so funny because this is, again, quite a me shade. It is one of these sort of like green teal red based shifty shadows. The reason I chose Drip is actually because it is quite affordable. Looxi Beauty does, in my opinion, do a really wonderful range of shadows at a very affordable price point, whereas Terra Moon's is amazing as well, but they're a little bit more expensive. And so I feel like this shadow is a great like bang for your buck, especially if you're looking for a shade like this that kind of shifts from red to green to gold. It's an absolutely amazing choice. Now, this again has much more of a buttery feeling. It's not quite as foiled as Gifts Galore, but it's very buttery. It's not glittery. So I'm gonna swatch that right here next to Gifts Galore. And you can see that amazing, beautiful, again, red base with that green to red to gold shift. I think that Looxi did a great job with this shadow because it does really give you everything that you want in that very like smooth, buttery formula with the right shifts and the right tones without going overboard. And they do it at an amazing price point. So definitely think Looxi is worth checking out. If you've never looked into their shadows, they do a beautiful job. This is another Looxi Beauty shadow called Painted Lady. And I feel like this is one of their better known shades. Actually, people, when I've worn the shade and noted what it's called, have been like, oh, Painted Lady is one of my favorites. And it definitely is one of my favorites since I picked it up. I'm not even a big purple person per se, but something about this purple shadow with these amazing teal and green sparkles to it, where it kind of like goes deep purple when you shift it all the way to that like bright, vibrant green, just sings to me. I mean, it has such dimension to it, and it really is a very stunning shadow on the eyes. Very similar formula to Drip. This is one of those that has a bit more flake to it. So you'll see when I swatch it, it definitely has more fallout than Drip did, but it absolutely sings. Look at that next to that Drip shade. The purple just has this like magical sheen to it. It's a very deep purple, but it can also read very lilac when you move your eyes around. It just really, really catches the light in a gorgeous way. And it has bits of gold in it as well as that sort of like teal green shift. So you can really go warm or cool with it on your look, you know, in your look, depending on what you're kind of vibing with. 3 very beautiful and unique shades. This next shade is called Dahlia, and this is from the brand Dandelion Cosmetics. Dandelions is one of my favorite smaller independent shadow brands. I think that they do incredible matte shadows as well as really beautiful sparkly shadows. Dahlia has this just effortless glow to it. It's almost like a daisy yellow, but again, it has that kind of green shift to it that I absolutely love. So it can very much read greenish depending on what you pair it with, or it can really read as gold. It has amazing kind of teal sparkles in it, gold sparkles, and it just brings a lot of light to any look. I always get compliments like every time I wear the shadow. It's really, really hard for me not to, again, pull it into any kind of color story that I'm doing, because I find that it just really, really makes a look. This has a little bit of a smoother formula, but you can see it still has like some nice flaking to it. I'm gonna swatch it right next to Painted Lady. Dahlia. It's very much actually like, now that I'm seeing them next to each other, it's kind of like a lighter version of Drip. It doesn't have that reddened base to it, so it is inherently reading more just like straight yellow, but it still has that green sparkly shift to it. So they really just like kind of feel like they're a nice pairing with each other. Like this is if you want to go warmer toned, and this is maybe if you want to go cooler toned. And I think that Dandelions is doing such great things with their shadows, especially their mattes, but this is one of their really, really beautiful sparkle shades. Okay, this next shade is called Social Butterfly. This is another Looxi Beauty shadow, and I think this is another one that I feel like I've heard people talk about before. Brownish gold shade, but the amount of sheer like metallic sparkle in this is honestly shocking. Like it is just truly a magnificent shadow where you could easily do this as a one and done and have quite a bit of pow on your eyes, or you could use it as a real hit of light in the center of a halo eye or for an inner corner highlight. Like it just glows. It has a sort of like a reddish shift to it when you turn it around. You know, you can kind of capture it there, but then it reads super duper chocolate gold when it hits the light. So this is a bit more of a, again, a flaky formula. Right up here. So here's that shade on the finger. Again, so much sheen. You can tell sort of like the types of shadows that I'm the most attracted to. I definitely have shadows in my collection that don't fall into this category, but when I was thinking about what I really consider, you know, prettiest, it was so easy for me because basically it's all the same types of shadows that I find to be the most satisfying. They're really those like kind of foily metallics. Like I love a lot of sparkle and glitter as well, but it's really difficult for me to say no to a nice smooth buttery metallic. So this is Social Butterfly. It can almost have a vaguely pink iridescence to it, especially in certain lights. Like I would say that it reads more pink in the swatch than it actually does in the pan, and that to me is really beautiful too. Like you could totally pair this in a very like soft kind of pink look, or you could pair it with a lot of yellow, and I think it'll really bring out the gold a bit more. But absolutely stunning, and again, just a really buttery, smooth formula. Looxi, when they do a shadow, they really do it right. So it was really, really difficult to limit myself as far as which Cleona shadows I was going to include. Those are these square pans. Cleona does, in my opinion, some of the absolute best independent, amazing multi-chrome shadows that you can get. They are the clear masters, in my opinion. It's so hard to compare their shadows to anyone else's. They do amazing things with color. They do amazing things with texture. They come out with some of the most unique and like highly sought after shades that you can really find on the market. And I do have quite a few in my collection because I love them so much. I did limit myself to 4. That was very difficult. But this is the first of the 4, and it's called Bloodline. It is a really, really stunning, very me shade. It again has that kind of like reddened, darker base with the teal shift, and it can almost lean like a light purple or fuchsia depending on when it hits the light. It has those, you know, like vibrant green, teal sparkles and gold shift to it that just makes it really, really versatile. And I find that this is so beautiful with warm looks. I'm always trying to be very careful when I swatch my Cleona shadows just because they are super delicate. They can easily crack, but they are so worth it. Okay, so that you can see it's so different, but it like next to Social Butterfly, it's like they're almost blending into one shadow. It's so funny. But I would say that Bloodline is actually more pink and more fuchsia. It's much more, obviously it has like the green shift, which this shade doesn't have. And it's got more of that multi-chrome effect, whereas this has more of like a molten metal effect. This has a true shift to it between the red and the green. But yeah, I mean, if you can't tell, I have a type. And so that was really what I leaned into when I was thinking about what shadows to put in this little grouping. Cleona I will always recommend, but in particular, I think that Bloodline is a really, really classic shade from them. So that's Cleona's Bloodline. Next up from Cleona is one of their electric multi-chromes. This is another one from the stained glass collection, and this shade is called Hilt. And it is an incredible, almost sky blue shadow with this fantastically vibrant orange shift to it. The combination of these two shifting colors together is really special, especially because orange and blue, you know, are friends on the color wheel. I find that I like pairing them together in real life, and when they're in this almost like pastel electric format, they just set each other off in such a way that it's really stunning on the eyes. And I've worn this several times now since I received the shade recently, and I can't stop wearing it. Again, love the electric multi-chromes. I think that they are some of the best formulas in the stained glass collection. That is Hilt. And it really does have that truly vibrant shift to it where it's so much more than a blue eyeshadow. It just catches the light and brings out that highly, intensely stunning orange. Really, really beautiful. Hilt, an absolute winner from Cleona. Okay, this next shade is called Interstellar, and it is from Terra Cosmetics. It is such a beautiful shade that I accidentally bought it twice. Just so embarrassing to admit. But I fell for it once and had it in my collection, and when I placed an order again, I'd forgotten that I'd already had it, and I thought it was so beautiful that I bought it again. So I have two of them. It's absolutely ridiculous. It is this, you know, beautiful, again, fuchsia kind of purple that shifts to blue with a little bit of green in there too, but mostly this like purple to blue shift. And it just has a lot of depth to it. It reminds me very much of Gifts Galore as well. It's kind of in that same family, but this is reads a bit more purple and has more of that metallic sheen to it, not super duper sparkly, just really, really smooth and buttery. Is Interstellar. There's that gorgeous shift to it. Okay. And there it is. So you can see, and it's actually great to do this for myself even, the comparison between Gifts Galore, which in the pan it kind of reminded me of, compared to when it's actually swatched, it reads so much lighter and so much more pink and purple than this does, which reads overwhelmingly like teal to dark red. So I love, again, this is really beneficial even just for me to kind of see how some of these shades compare. This is an absolute winner of a shade from Terra Moons. I have so many shades from them that I really enjoy, but Interstellar truly holds the name of being the shade so beautiful that I accidentally bought it twice. All right, I'm gonna wash off my hand and my fingers, and we're gonna keep going with the rest of the shadows. Okay, we have 5 shadows left to go. I washed my hands so that I had clean fingers and a clean swatch hand again. So this is another Cleona shade. This is the shade Carving. This is another, I would call it classic Cleona shade. And again, fits very well into my type of shadow and shade. This is a bit grayer, less pink and red than some of the other shades that I have that sort of teal shift to it. But again, it still has that blue green shift, but it has a much more subtle and, like I said, grayer, a little bit cooler base. So it has a bit of a pink shift to it as well, but it's very, very, very subtle. These are so flaky. This one in particular, I think, is a bit flakier. So here's that finger swatch. You can see it's reading a lot more cool toned and gray. And it's got a flakier texture to it than some of the other shadows. So getting a bit more fallout than I did with some of the other ones, but there you have it. So swatched, it's actually reading even greener than it is in the pan, but you can see it has that like cool, taupey, almost silvery base to it. I feel like this is one of those great, almost neutral shadows with a sparkle. So if you're someone that loves cool tones, but also like lives for this kind of blue-green shift, carving is very much going to be your friend. So again, that is Carving from Cleona. This is Mural. And I am laughing because I waited for this shade to come back in stock for what honestly felt like forever. It was sold out. It's sold out multiple times, and with good reason. It is one of their electric multi-chromes. It was more of a newer release. I can't remember exactly when it came out, but it was part of an addition to the stained glass collection line. And it is the most stunning electric green with that electric orange shift. So it's extremely vibrant. It has almost like neon qualities to it, but it has so many different beautiful like color, color shifts to it. Like when you can see it, the green almost can go a little blue, and then it goes back up to that hot green with a little bit of orange to it. And I love this electric multi-chrome formula for them. I just think that it's a very, very unique shadow. Honestly, couldn't do this video without including it because it speaks to my soul as far as color and texture and light. It is everything that I wanted in an eyeshadow. And yes, I care that deeply about eyeshadow. So okay, and there it is. There is Mural in all of its glory. I just, honestly, I don't think I've ever seen a prettier shadow. I really don't. To me, this is the ultimate shadow, and that's just because I love green so much. And so for me, this is really like a clear winner. If I had to pick a favorite out of all of these, this would probably be it. That is Mural by Cleona. This is Angel Wings. This is another Looxi beauty shade, and it's got a lot in common actually with Social Butterfly. It's part of the same release collection, but it definitely got a bit more red to it than Social Butterfly, and it's got a lot of the same beautiful qualities that make it really sheeny though. And it's another shade that whenever I wear this or whenever I include it in any kind of color palettes that I'm making, people are always drawn to it. This is one of those colors that people know about and ask about and just are like, what is on your eyes? That is Angel Wings. It is a beauty. Swatch. Again, these are all very delicate formulas, but you just gotta use a light hand, and that's it. That's Angel Wing. This, similarly to carving, actually has a bit more fallout, but so there you go. It's that red base, a little bit pinker than Social Butterfly. Really stunning shift to it. You can see the green compared to, like, there's more blue in this one, there's more green in this one. And it just sings on the eyes. And again, Looxi Beauty, really affordable price point. This is going to be one that I feel is really hard to capture on camera, but this is called Red Giant, and it is from Terra Cosmetics. This is more of one of those, almost like, I call them Houdini shades. So they look white in the pan. They have, you know, this sort of white base, but then they're given a hidden shift that is most visible when you swatch it or when you wear it on the eyes. It's not as easily visible in the pan. So in the case of Red Giant, as you can guess, it shifts to this really beautiful red, and it is such a fun shadow. This is such a fun shadow to layer over other shadows. You can wear it on its own, but if you take another shade and you put this on top, it just adds this gorgeous, like, red sheen over top of it, and it's so stunning. I have a few shades that are, like, similar to this in that they have a hidden shift to them. I have a few that have shift purple that are really beautiful that I like to pull out, but there's something about Red Giant. Ever since I got it, it's been one of these shades that I'm just always drawn to, and I love to pull out for looks. Hopefully I'll be able to swatch it in a way that you can really see how it reads. Ah, yes, there you go. See what I mean? It really picks up once you actually swatch it out. But that is Red Giant. So it has that white and then almost bluish base when you have it swatched out, and then it really gets that beautiful reddish pink that picks up. And I would say it's redder in person. I think the camera might be picking it up a little bit pinker than it actually is, but it is quite red. But it's a shadow that keeps surprising me and always adds something new and different to every look whenever I use it. So that is Terra Moon's Red Giant. Again, very hard to pick up in the pan. We're at the last one. This is Phoenix, another Terra Cosmetics shade. I love this shadow. It is another really unique shadow with a white base and then, you know, kind of like that blue undertone, but then it does shift to that hot, exciting orange. And it is really, truly beautiful on the eyes. I've worn it twice now, and I was stunned both times by how absolutely beautiful it looked. It's just got such unique shading to it. It's really vibrant, but it's also really subtle at the same time. So I'm just gonna give it a swatch. I'm gonna use my thumb because we're at the very end here and I don't want to wash my hands again. And there you go. That is Phoenix. And wow, does it ever deliver? If ever a name was accurate for a shadow, I think Phoenix is accurate. It is so beautiful. That, like, hot yellow, orange, blue, white shift is everything. And again, this has been really fun for me to do because I get to see how some of these shadows look next to each other that I would ordinarily never get to see. And seeing just some of the, like, similarities and things that I like, and also the differences and the nuances, is really exciting. And that's our last shadow. Believe it or not, we made it to the end. That's Phoenix, our final prettiest single shadow. It was so difficult to do this, and it was really challenging to make these choices, but I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that I challenged myself. But yeah, don't be surprised if you see a part 2 where I go into maybe more different formulas and a few more types of shades, because I realize there's a lot of similarities here, but these are all really me shades, things that I reach for, things that I use all the time. And so if ever there was an accurate video to kind of represent me in eyeshadow, it's this one. So with that, we've come to the end of our swatch video. I hope that you really enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed curating this collection, and I hope that maybe this will be a gateway for some of you into the world of independent single shadows if it's not something that you've ever explored before. I think that single shadows are an amazing way to just find colors and texture that really speak to you and then bring them into personal color stories and looks. I think it's a really, really fun way to just like figure out who you are, what your style is, by finding those single shadows that really speak to you, as opposed to just picking up a palette, which I'm all for beautiful palettes, but something about picking out these individual shades is just super personal and really makes you feel good. Makes you feel good when you find something that just speaks to you and makes you feel a lot of joy. So I'm really happy with this collection of 13. And I'm super excited to potentially do a part 2 at some point in the future. We'll see what happens, but I'm glad you were here along for this ride. And please let me know in the comments if you end up aligning with any of these shades yourself, if they feel like they speak to you, or what shades and colors and textures speak to your soul. I honestly want to know. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.